went right through from being what was in those days an article clerk through to being an equity partner. So I've been through the machine myself, which is one of the reasons why we have their kind of experience and perspective to be able to help other people who are going through that process. Having worked in the industry myself, I found it very difficult to try and identify someone who could help me with my career. The existing providers of what you call recruitment just didn't have the understanding and insight to be able to help people who were anything more than kind of very junior within the businesses. So I saw a gap in the market there. And similarly on the other side, as a business, it's hard to find people who understand your business and can kind of share your pain and help you grow. So really, that's what we're there to solve on both sides of the equation. It's helping businesses and individuals move forward and being the people who will share their situation, understand what they're going through and help them move forward. There are probably three big drivers at the moment to different degrees. Firstly, there's the general economic situation, which is affecting legal businesses same as any others because the clients, the people they work with, are struggling financially, so hence they're trying to avoid using lawyers. That's the first driver. The second driver is deregulation. The legal market has just been deregulated as of October last year, which means that for the first time, businesses owned by people who are not lawyers can sell legal services.
Such as Tesco or WH Smith's offering a service,
Yeah. I mean, there are a couple of big outside players that are already evident. One of them is the co-op. So that is changing things. The third thing, which is probably less important but it's still a factor, is there's been a change in the way that the profession is regulated. More process, more systems required around the regulation, and again that's another factor because it increases the cost base of the businesses operating in that market.
Now, we were talking a while back before Christmas about the different skills now that are expected of lawyers. That, rather than just the technical skills, other things now are expected of them. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that situation has been around for a while.
If you could introduce that answer almost as if I didn't ask the question, the way that the legal profession are requiring different skills now from people.
The legal profession now require different skills from lawyers working within it. It's much more important now to be a business person who understands the law rather than a lawyer. People need someone who can communicate. So I think the being a good lawyer, which used to be the big thing, is now just a hygiene factor. And the key things are communication skills, commercial skills, and the ability to sell.
Yeah. And a lot of that presumably is done through networking and building relationships, which is, I guess, not what they went into law to do initially.
Yeah, I think there's still a disconnect between what people joining the profession think the job is and what the job really is. I think at the early stages the focus is all about training to do law, to understand law and to do law. And in fact, yes, it's an important part of the job, but it's only part of the job. And I think that what needs to happen is there needs to be a shift to this kind of balanced portfolio approach, where you're training legal skills, you're training business skills, you're training communication skills. But I think if you were to speak to someone at university who said they wanted to be a lawyer and asked them what the job of a lawyer was, it would not match what the real job of a lawyer is. End of 2008, the world had gone off a cliff. The first thing to go was the property market, both domestic and residential and commercial. And so you'll imagine my joy when I got the phone call from a property lawyer who had just accepted voluntary redundancy,
yes.
Although the voluntary may have a slight question mark after it, but she'd accepted voluntary redundancy in Manchester and so now needed to find something else to do. No one was hiring property lawyers. But we have a client, a firm that we've done a lot of work with over the past few years, that's based in the Midlands. And just before the recession, they had been looking for a commercial property lawyer for their Birmingham office, where they had no capability. So they needed somebody to go in there and build the practice from scratch. Obviously that had moved towards the back burner. But the idea was there. So we had this person in Manchester, and we had the job in Birmingham. Having met the person, I thought she would be perfect for this job, because she's a very strong marketer, she's got really good experience, and she was experienced enough to take on that sort of a challenge. The problem is that, of course, by now the firm doesn't really want to hire anybody, and they're in Birmingham. She's only ever worked in Manchester. So there's challenges on both sides, because when I raised it with her, her immediate reaction is, well, I'm not going to Birmingham. And when I raised it with them, their immediate reaction is, well, we're not hiring anybody now. It took us probably 5-6 months to get it through. But the end result was she took the job. Along the way, we'd got the managing partner on board fairly early with the idea. Having met her, it was like, oh, actually, she might just be able to do it. Even in this market, maybe we should invest. He took it to his partnership, they rejected it. So we had to overcome that. The great thing was everybody stuck at it.
Yes.
We stuck at it, the candidate stuck at it, the managing partner stuck at it, because we believed in it, we all believed in it. And at the end, say 5-6 months later, she started. She's still there. She's doing brilliantly. She's one of their stars, and they've got great things in mind for her in the future. She loves it. She loves Birmingham. We've now just recruited her number 2 to go in and work alongside her. And when things like that happen, you can actually see we've done something there. We've made a difference. And it's not that we've landed a firm with somebody, but their business has benefited, her career has benefited. We got into fostering about 2000. My wife has always worked with children in one way, shape or form. She used to work as a nanny in London. We moved away from London. It was hard for her to get the kind of quality of jobs that were available down there. But it came to 2000. She hadn't really been working in the immediate period leading up to that, and she was wanting to get back into doing more. Our children were then getting towards the sort of top end of primary school. And she saw an advert in a paper one day for a private foster agency. It was just around the time when that kind of industry was beginning. And she thought that it would be really good, having spent a lot of her life working with privileged children and looking after them, to work with less privileged children. And again, it comes back to the making a difference thing. Doing something that would hopefully make a difference in their lives.
Yes.
I think we got our first child Easter 2001, so it took about a year to go through the process of getting approved. We've had some wonderful experiences, we've had some awful experiences. There's been a lot of ups and downs along the way. have we made the difference that we thought we were going to make? Probably not. I think it's a bit like we talked earlier about people coming into the law. They've got no idea what the job's really about.
Yes. That's same for
I think it's the same. I do. It's the same.
Yes.
Because I think the biggest thing that I've learned in 10 years of fostering is that a lot of what makes a person actually happens to them in the very first few months of their life.
Right.
And that once that period has gone by, yes, things can change, but the very fundamental, deep-rooted essence of a person is formed very early on.
It's like an imprinting process.
And you cannot change that. So you look after a child from age 3 or 4 and you're kind of thinking, well, they're in a good home, they're in a secure environment, they're safe, so certain things will flow from that in terms of how they behave. Not necessarily. Yes, you can have an impact on the surface level, and there's a lot of things you can change about them, but there's always stuff kind of deep inside that is, and you just have to accept that. I think that's probably the learning point. Is there are some things about people you have to accept, and then you kind of work around that to make the relationship work. You take them in at a time when they're undergoing some sort of crisis. You look after them, you hopefully give them an insight into how life can be, you stabilise them, you help them to get better at school, all this kind of thing, and then there's some kind of end result, which is that they're able to go back and live somewhere within the family network. And I think that is that's the best you can really hope for. Over the next 5 years, the big challenge for me is to build a business which is recognised as being a good business from the point of view of the quality of what we can do, which is a secure business, which gives a good future for the people who work within it. So I think it's really growing it, establishing it, stabilising it, getting it to a size where you think, it's there and it's going to be there.
And is there maybe one piece of advice that you would give a professional person who's recently been made redundant? Apart from come and talk to us, what can they do to make themselves more marketable?
Network. I think you've got to pick yourself up. You've got to get beyond whatever's happened to you to get you to the point you're at. Maybe if there may be lessons to learn in terms of how you got there and why you were the one that was made redundant rather than somebody else, that kind of stuff. You need to take that on board, but basically you've got to be able to put that behind you, look forward. You need to identify what you want to do and you want to go for it, and you need to get yourself known, you need to network, you need to talk to people, and that's the best way, particularly with the world the way it is now, the best chance you've got for being able to find something of the type that you're going to want to do.